Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of the New Hampshire High School Football Show. It is week 2 of the season. Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com, our new home inside the Merchants Auto Studios at ESPN New Hampshire in Nashua, right on Main Street. We got 2 fine stations for you on the radio, and we do it live 9 to 11 Saturday mornings on the 900 AM position on your dial out of Nashua. Also 1250 in and around Manchester and everywhere on the internet, ESPNNHradio.com, and of course NHSportsPage.com. And speaking of NHSportsPage.com, I bring in my co-host Dave Haley. Dave, a happy second week of the season. We got some NFL action in the books, more to come. Our fantasy teams, we're all juiced up about it. It's great to have football back.
Yeah, it's a good night. Things are starting to, you're starting to figure things out. I'm looking at the scores from last night, which we're going to go through in a second, but now you're starting to see teams will start to separate in the next couple of weeks, so it's kind of fun to watch.
I saw a couple games last week. I was at a Division II game last night. You saw a D1 game last night. Why don't we get to the scoreboard? There were 16 games played around the state of New Hampshire across all the divisions. Let's hear how things went with Dave Haley.
Start with Bedford, 69-27 over Pete Terrier's alma mater. 69-27. Hammer don't hurt him. Connor Robert, 3 touchdown passes. He ran for 2. Bedford was in control of this thing from the beginning. 69 points tells me South just couldn't get Bedford off the field. So 2-0 start for Derek Stank's team. Nice start for him. Timberlane, we thought they were good. Apparently they were good. 28-7 win over Londonderry. Both of those teams are now 1-1. Jake Post, who's a sophomore who we really like a lot. 3 touchdowns last night for Timberlane, so good W there. I think the Owls are going to be a playoff team this year. Game I was at last night, the highlights should be up very soon. Jennifer Chick putting those up, I think right around now, 9 o'clock. Pankerton 54-14 over Portsmouth. This game was 14-14 late in the second quarter. Pankerton went down and scored, and then with under a minute to go, Cody Graham, who was terrific last night, we'll talk about him, trying to throw a screen pass. James Tully of Pankerton, who I interviewed one of the kids I interviewed after the game, picks it off, runs it in, makes it 28-14 in the half, and they kind of went from there. Brett Titilio, huge night, 3 touchdowns, and he had 1 run, a 75-yard touchdown run called back. So 54-14, Pinkerton newsflash is still pretty good. Salem, speaking of pretty good, Salem 43-0 over Dover. Those 2 teams playing next week, and I talked to kids about that last night. They all gave me predictions on the final score.
You mean Salem and Pinkerton?
Salem, Pinkerton. That's
You're telling me the Pinkerton kids gave you predictions on the final score?
Not even close.
All right, that was a joke.
They Belichicked it the whole way. They're like, oh, we're going to prepare for tomorrow, and blah, blah.
We just need to do our jobs.
The eye of Brian O'Reilly is on them, and they know it, so they were good. We'll see it on the highlights. They were good. Nick Shumsky returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown for Salem, and they rolled from there 43-0. So we'll talk about that. It's going to be a great game next week. Winnicott gets their first win, 44-19, impressively over Merrimack. And remember, Merrimack beat Portsmouth last night. Brian Offont, who's I think set up to have a huge year, 4 touchdown passes for Winnicott. Nice win for Ron Offont's team. Dave Haley and staff picks. The only guy to pick Concord. I don't know why I picked Concord, but I was correct. Concord with a big bounce-back win. Eric Brown's team really came back and beat a good Bishop Girton team 17-14 in their home opener. Jacob Lewis hit Leo Sade with the game-winning touchdown. In that one, Lewis had a big night, 263 yards, a touchdown throw and a touchdown run. JT Hisco, good night, 242 and 2 touchdowns for BG. But Concord goes to 1-1. BG now falls to 1-1, 17-14. Exeter all over the Fighting McIsaacs of Spalding High School, 35-6. Bill Ball's team now 2-0. Spalding drops to 0-2.
What a tough start of the season for them. They had to play Pinkerton in week 1, and then they welcomed in Spalding for week 2, or Exeter for week 2.
Yeah, and I mean, Exeter is what we usually see from them at Pinkerton. I can tell you from seeing them is they're Pinkerton. Dante Lorende, friend of ours, nice W. Congratulations, gets his first win as the Nashua North coach, 14-7 over Alvern. Josh Rodriguez. 3-yard touchdown reception with 7 seconds left for the W there. Nashua North 1-1. Alvern falls to 0-2. Sean Sendell buries himself in a hole in the woods.
Yeah, no wonder he's not here today producing the show.
No, he's like Jerry's friend who goes in the woods.
I think he went to a wedding, full disclosure, but I'm sure he wouldn't be too happy about that.
It's more fun if I say that. By the way, we're going to get into Shushgate later on. That's something I want to discuss.
Shushgate.
Yeah, we have another gate, folks. Shush. Has nothing to do with the Patriots, though. Merrimack Valley, 43-6. This game played early, right? Over Manchester West. I saw this score, yeah. Evan Martin, a very good player, 4 touchdowns, 4 total touchdowns for Merrimack Valley. They're 1-1. West falls to 0-2. Monadnock, 27-7 over Laconia. kind of an emphatic win for Linwood Patnode's team. They go to 1-1. Laconia now 0-2, and their offense is really struggling. They've scored 13 points in 2 games. So the Sachems with some work to do offensively. Here's the score that surprised me of the night.
Me too.
Wow. 32-13, Lebanon beats Plymouth. Obviously, I knew Lebanon was good. I didn't know they were that good. 32-13, and they were in control the whole way.
Yes.
This wasn't like they pulled away late.
Yes.
I mean, this was...
Well, they were in control at the start. Plymouth creeped back in, and then Lebanon did pull away.
Yeah. Ryan Milliken, 306 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns.
Only 23 carries. It's not like he carried it 40 times.
Unbelievable.
23 carries for 306. And apparently he's got an injury. He injured himself in the preseason, his foot, and he's been having to tape it up like crazy and Advil it up and ice it up and who knows what else up. But he still goes for 306 last night.
Keith Matty's on the sidelines, I think, putting his foot in an ice bucket every time he needs it to make sure he's ready for basketball season. But one of the best athletes in the state. We'll talk more about this one, certainly. But 32-13, Lebanon with a big win over Plymouth, who I picked to win that division. So great win for Lebanon. Chris Child's team, who we had on the show last week. Another 2-0 team, Milford, 43-12 over Hollis. Brookline is kind of a rivalry game. Bryce Walker, 3 touchdowns. Keith Jones' team is 2-0 and now set up for a huge game next week against Souhegan.
And we will be there with the
there.
NHSportsPage.com video cameras.
Mike Lockman coming in later today. So the game, the Pete Terry and the great John Kester are out last night. Wyndham, the defending champs, kind of their first huge test, and they pass it on the road, 21-7 over Trinity. Touchdown runs by Shane LaFawn, Matt Shea, and Victor Pizzotti, who before the season, Coach Raycraft had told me was going to have a great year for them. And
I got a great story about Pizzotti afterwards. When we
Yeah.
start talking about this game in more detail, this is a funny one.
Yeah, Bill Raycroft with a good W there. Hanover 34-14 over Kingswood. New coach Sam Cavallaro gets his first win for then. Dom Linehan with 220 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns for Hanover. That was their season. Well, no, they're 1-1 now. And Kingswood Bleed Falls.
No, they both had a bye.
Oh, they did
last week.
Oh, I
so
thought Hanover played
first
last week.
game for both teams.
Oh, good W there. And I only see one Division III score on the books here. Interlinks Moltenboro with a 33-12 win over Somersworth. They were up 33-0 at the half. Nick Brothers' 65-yard touchdown run the first play. As I said before, Interlinks Moltenboro is going to be very good this year. 2-0, and that's the only scores in Division III.
Well, unfortunately, Dave, there was one other game in D3.
Oh, I forgot to mention Notre Dame 38, Texas 3. I didn't know we were doing
that. Was last Saturday night. Last night in Bow, they brought in those fake lights. Not fake lights, but the portable lights.
Sure.
And then they lit up the scoreboard by a tune of 41-0 on
Take it
your
easy.
Guilford Golden Eagles, 41-0.
We're transitioning early, okay? Now we're going to go to Newport next week, the Golden Eagles, so it's a tough
You're
little
staring down the
stretch.
barrel of an 0-3 start. Just some action around D3 today. Raymond at Fall Mountain. Brady takes on Franklin.
That's a good one.
Stevens at Epping Newmarket, I think, is an interesting one
Yeah,
as well.
it is, absolutely.
So is Campbell and Newport.
Yeah.
Obviously, a rematch of last year's D3 championship game. Campbell beat Newport twice last year, including in that championship game. Newport looking for revenge on Campbell, much like Bow was able to extract on Campbell last week in Litchfield. You got Mascoma at Winnisquam today, Farmington at Newfound. D2, big game tonight. 6 o'clock, Kennett at Kearsarge. Both teams 1-0. If my son did not have a fall ball game at Goffstown Junior Baseball at 4 o'clock, I would have went up to Kearsarge to check out that game, Kennett at Kearsarge. Pembroke takes on St. Thomas today, and then Conval 1-0 on the season. They take on John Stark, who was a tough luck loser last week against Milford.
Somebody break up Conval.
Yeah, Conval, they're feeling pretty good. Their quarterback, Spezza Ferry, the sophomore quarterback, with 6 touchdowns last week. So things are looking up around Conval. In D1, there's a couple of games today. Keene at Goffstown. That's a 1:30 kickoff in Goffstown. And then at 2 o'clock this afternoon, I saw Ryan Ray last night at Gill Stadium. They had just finished up practice over there. They take on their crosstown rivals, Memorial, 2 o'clock at Memorial High School. So should be a good day of football. Good night last night. We'll take a timeout now. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, week 2 of the New Hampshire High School Football season, halfway underway. Last night, games around the state of New Hampshire. There were 16 of them. Today, a bunch more to follow. Myself, Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. We're both at games. We've got video highlights up on the website from both of those games. Dave, let's start with your game out on the Seacoast. I believe the first ever football meeting, I know they've scrimmaged each other, but the first ever regular season meeting between the Pinkerton Astros and the Portsmouth Clippers, and advantage Pinkerton, as I think a lot of people expected.
Well, yeah, the first 2 possessions, Pinkerton it was just like shoving little kids down the field. I mean, they were just like pushing them. It was 8 yards, 12 yards, 14 yards. They had Mike Curley, Brett Titillo, Nick Coombs. Titillo. Brett Coombs, they have a lot of weapons over there. And Portsmouth stayed with him. Cody Graham was terrific at the beginning of that game. I was telling you before the show, the kid is legit. I think he was 19 for his first 21. It was 14-14. He moved them up. I thought Johnny Iafola, who's the offense coordinator for Portsmouth, did a really nice job kind of rolling him out. Brian O'Reilly talks about it in the interview with me after. They had a lot of problems with him. And then what they did is they adjusted. They had the 2 defensive ends pretty much hold them in the pocket. They had James Tully pretty much, who I interviewed after the game.
And I like that kid.
Yeah,
he's all over the place.
He's terrific. Nice kid too. He pretty much spied Cody Graham, and it just didn't allow him. Every time he threw, he had a hand in his face or he was chasing him down. And then really, what you saw as the game went on, it was 14-14. As I said, Pinkerton came down, drove in for a touchdown. And then that's when Portsmouth, they have a no-huddle offense, so they tried, to get it down the field with under a minute to go. Cody had a screen set up, tried to throw it over Tully. He was too big. He picked it off, ran it in, and it was 28-14. Portsmouth really made some good adjustments. Tim Hompley and Kevin Mills, the defensive coaches for Portsmouth, made nice adjustments. They stopped him a few times. But then as you see as the game goes on with teams like Exeter and Pinkerton, or have all these kids on the sideline.
Wyndham last night.
Wyndham, they wear you down. I mean, and all of a sudden, the Portsmouth kids were coming off the field drenched in sweat, and Pinkerton's just rolling them in. And at the end, I mean, they were just exhausted. And Pinkerton's good. I mean, they're extremely well coached, and they've got talent all over the place. And it's amazing that they could lose a kid as good as T.J. Urbanek, and they have loads of kids who can run the ball. I mean, they're very, very good.
You mentioned Nick Coombs. He was back last night for them.
He played.
Because in the Queen City Jamboree game against Concord, he went down with an injury late. This was after he returned a kickoff for a touchdown and then a punt for a touchdown. Maybe it wasn't in that order, but he had 2 return touchdowns in the first half for Pinkerton, and then he went down with an injury. It looked like a knee injury late in the game, and he was down for a while, and he was writhing in pain, and I was like, oh, man, they're going to lose this kid for the year, but apparently he was okay.
Yeah, he played last night and played well. Cody Graham had to come out in the second half. He heard it. He got hit in the chest pretty good. He was kind of wheezing after the game a little bit, and then he hurt his finger on his non-throwing hand pretty good, and so they put Sean Parham in as the backup quarterback, and really Portsmouth couldn't move the ball with Cody not in the game. But I'll tell you, Cody played very, very well for Portsmouth. They got a keeper with him.
How about Joey Ozier? Because he had a big year last year. I haven't heard a lot about him so far this year.
He did okay. I mean, he did fine. Christian Pete had a nice game. Had some nice tackles behind the line of scrimmage defensively. Had a lot of catches out of the slot. Ryan Edney played well defensively for Portsmouth. Ozier played pretty well. They just early in the game, Cody was going out 5 yards to Ozier, 5 yards to Christian Pete, 5 yards to Edney. But Pinkerton was just wrapping them up. No yards after the catch, and they're just so disciplined defensively. They don't miss tackles at Pinkerton. They do a nice job wrapping kids up.
What's your thoughts on the Pinkerton quarterback Ryan Albrecht?
I'll tell you, he's just a guy who's kind of directing traffic. He had one nice run in the second half, threw the ball a couple times, and neither one of them were on target. So I know Brian O'Reilly told me he has a lot of confidence in him throwing the ball. But they didn't do any. I'm not sure they completed a pass. They might have completed a screen pass at one point, but they did all their damage on the ground. And of course, when you're beating a team decisively on the ground, you just keep running it. And so he looked very, very good. He's a great ball handler. They had a couple of ball handling errors that he was able to kind of cover up, but He's solid, but he's not a guy who's running the ball that much, and he doesn't throw very much. I think he might have thrown 3 passes.
So 54-14, Pinkerton whoops up on Portsmouth. They're now 2-0 on the season. They will take on Salem next week. The Blue Devils are 2-0 as well. They shut out Dover last night, 43-0. Nick Shumsky returns the opening kickoff for a score. I saw a tweet last night that was the first kickoff return for a touchdown by Salem in 45 years. Now, I find that hard to believe.
Who the heck knows these stats? Yeah.
It's Bernie Campbell. I know it's Bernie Campbell because he is the longtime statistician at Salem High School. And when you go to a game, he brings you these packets. Everything's online now. It's like, go to our website and click this, and you can find the whole media guide on there. Well, Bernie Campbell still does it the old school way. He actually prints them up. He keeps the stats, kind of writing them down on paper, and then compiles them, and then he has a packet, and it's usually like 35 pages thick, and he'll see me at a game, and he'll be like, here you go, Pete, and he'll hand it out to the media guys, not just me, but he hands it out, he brings it for the media. But can you find that hard to believe that Salem hasn't returned a kickoff for a touchdown in 45 years? I'm 45 years old.
Jerrickson,
that was 1970. Frederick never brought one back.
Max Jakes.
Come on.
How many championship teams do they have? The Wrens? I mean, all the guys they used to have. No, I don't. I find that very hard to believe.
But if Bernie says it, I believe it, but I just find it hard to believe. So your thoughts on that matchup next week?
Oh, I think it's tremendous. I think Pinkerton's ready to roll. I asked.
Where's the game?
I think it's at Pinkerton. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, look it up. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I think it's at Pinkerton. Coach O'Reilly, just kind of looked at me like, we'll be ready to go. We're always ready for these things. So that will be. I'm sure a ton of people will be at that one. And I said in the interview to the kids, I go, you could argue that last year Londonderry, Salem, and Pinkerton were the best 3 teams in Division I football last year. So I know Salem is kind of put last year behind them, got off to a nice start. They won 2 games they were expected to win. That win over Winnicott looks even a little better today after Winnicott put it to Merrimack last night. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a good one.
Let's talk about Winnicott because Brian Offont, the coach's son, Ron Offont, he's had sons come up and play big for him. This is another one. They've got a new quarterback, the kid Pat McDougal, who, I think he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
They had a kid, Liam Viviano, playing a little bit of quarterback for them last year.
He's in the slot now.
He was a sophomore last year. Winnicott had a down year. I think people forget they beat Bedford in the D2 championship, I think 3 seasons ago.
Right.
So this is a team that's been a power, in their division, whatever it was, for a long time.
Inghau Wiesna, right?
Inghau Wiesna. Yes.
Yeah. And Mike Lewis, another very good running back.
Yeah,
so they got
very,
2
very
kids.
Good. Yes.
I was talking to Coach Offont for the previews, and he had a very quiet confidence about him. And they took their licks, and last year they were a team. The fourth quarter killed them. I mean, they were in a lot of games, and then they would give up 21 points in the fourth quarter because they were young and they didn't have depth, and they just got worn out by the end of it. But I remember the Portsmouth coaches kind of were giving me grief after my predictions. They're like, Winnicott's good, real good. So I think that makes that Winnicott Exeter game, which you and I have been to a couple of those.
That's, I think, September 26th, I believe.
That's a big game. I live, obviously, in Hampton. I live a mile from Winnicott High School, and I can remember when they played at Exeter 2 years ago when you and I went, on the highway they had a sign like go beat Exeter and stuff like that right on the highways. People were driving out of Hampton, so that's a good little rivalry, 2 exits down.
It's good that when those seacoast rivals are really, really good. I mean, I just think it makes it a lot more exciting.
Portsmouth Winnicott will be a good game too.
I think so.
They'll hang on them.
I think so. It looks like the game's at Salem next week.
Okay.
And that's on Saturday. I don't know if it's an afternoon game or a night game, but that should be interesting.
That's a big one.
Let's talk about the game that I was at. It was a D2 game, Wyndham and Trinity. I really, really was looking forward to the game. I think Wyndham really controlled the game from the get-go. It was 21-7 the final. This was a 14-7 game at halftime, but Trinity didn't score until right before the half, in the final seconds before halftime, to make it 14-7. And then Wyndham came out with the first possession of the second half, and they just went right down the field methodically, running the football with a number of different backs. A couple of kids from last year, Shane LaFawn and Matt Shea.
Yeah.
They got a brand new quarterback in Griffin Lippold.
How do you look?
He didn't really throw the ball a whole lot.
Yeah.
A couple times down the field, he hit Kyle Adamson, number 87, a big tight end.
That game must have been over in an hour. Both
you
those
know what?
teams running the ball.
You know what? I mean, there was a lot of running, not a lot of passing in the game. Victor Bizzotti, the junior fullback / linebacker that everybody's talking about, he's a tough runner. They just got a bunch of different guys. Ben Emmerich. They were using a kid named Corey Nealon. Another kid by the name of I already mentioned Emmerich, but they just have a balanced offense, a lot of different looks, a lot of ball faking. So they stack it in tight together. It was two teams running the double wing.
Yeah.
So it's not a wide open game like you're
see
seeing with the spread formations. So it wasn't the most artistically pleasing game, if you will. I don't want to say it was an ugly game, but both me and John Kesty, who filmed the game for NHSportsPage.com, were like, I guess we get caught up in all this high scoring and the throwing the football all over the place and the exciting plays. This was more like chunks of yardage. It wasn't big plays. Saiku Ba for Trinity is a tremendous player.
Oh, very
this
good.
Kid,
He'll play at the next level.
He's fast. He's got power.
He's bigger than we thought, isn't he?
He's got moves. Yeah, he's solid,
strong.
200 pounds, and he's all muscle. But they just had problems, holding on to the football. They fumbled it, I think, 4 times in the game and lost 3 of them. Their quarterback, Pat Mackey, kind of struggled. I don't see a strong passing game with Trinity. I mean, they don't really use a lot of passing formations, real tight formations.
Even when Carmen was there, they only threw like 8 times a game.
That one game that we went to, I think it was the first game of the season, Carmen Giampetruzzi, that senior season, when Trinity won the championship that year. They threw the ball all over the place. I think he threw for 350 yards in that game, but it was a lot of big plays, 50 yards,
yeah, that's
60
what
yards,
I mean.
70 yards. But this Trinity team, they want to run it. They've got a bunch of different ball carriers. Nick Purdue, they bottled him up pretty well, Wyndham did last night.
Will Shepard?
Will Shepard didn't even play.
Oh,
he had a boot on his left leg.
Oh, well, that's big.
Coach Burns told me that he was a game-time decision, and then he was in shorts, and he had a boot on his left leg. So
that's a big loss.
That was a big loss. I mean, he's a big part of that running game, both carrying the ball and blocking. Javel Desir, I think he got banged up. He didn't play a lot in the second half. They rotate a bunch of different guys in there. John Pope was seeing carries, Jake Clement. But all in all, this was a game, I think, dominated by the Wyndham Lions. I mean, they've got real good linemen. Patrick Hume, the center, is one of the best. We had him on the post-game interviews. His brother, Richard Hume, is a tight end. I mentioned the tight end, Adamson. But Sean Sweeney, Zach Kuna, Mike Fury, just some of the guys on the line. Thomas Splagonius, I hope I got that one right.
Love it when the linemen get pressed.
Got to give these guys credit.
They do. They deserve it.
They were very, very impressive. I talked to Coach Raycraft after the game, and I'm like, this is not the same team you had last year where they were able to pound you with the run, Curtis Jolliker, Kellen Bale. But then they could hit you on the outside plays with Gallo and Joey Frake.
Were you surprised when
Brendan McGinnis, of course.
Yeah, were you surprised when I picked them first in preseason?
No, because
I went into it. I had already talked to Mike Lockman, I had already talked to Keith Jones, and I had already talked to Bernsey. So it's sort of like thinking, well, maybe Wyndham could be like the 3rd best team in this division. But then when you talk to Coach Raycraft, you understand how many names, because we were at the Chat game, and so we see Jolliker out there, and we see McGinnis, and all these kids were out there. Joey Frake, and then you say, boy, they got a lot of kids back with Emmerich and like I said, Matt Shea and LaFond and so forth and so on, and they've got like a nice mix of new blood in there, and then a lot of veteran kids. Which I think Pinkerton kind of has that too. They've got a lot of kids back.
You want to check out the highlights of both of those teams that Dave just mentioned: Wyndham and their victory over Trinity last night, Portsmouth, their victory on the road at Portsmouth. Or Pinkerton, I should say, on the road at Portsmouth. You can go to nhsportspage.com and check out the videos. We post them on YouTube, and it's a lot of fun. You get to see a lot of different players, and then you get to see the kids kind of talking after the game as well, and the coaches. Other action from last night, that this Bedford-Nashua South game, 69-27. We thought Bedford put up a lot of points last week, 48-0 against Nashua North. 69 points. Connor Robert, sophomore quarterback, 3 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown runs. Bedford's a juggernaut. Still.
Yeah. Five senior linemen, you know what I mean, starts there. And I mean...
And a bunch of different skill guys.
And I'm going to show you my ability to take any conversation we have and steer it towards Notre Dame football. And here we go. Notre Dame's offensive line is so good against Texas that they could do whatever the heck they wanted. Bedford the same way. If you have like a great offensive line, it just opens up so many holes and allows you to do so many different things. And I think it really starts on the line with Bedford. And then a town like Bedford and a program like that, you know, they got playmakers. So I know we know Nick Leahy, but even if you haven't heard some of the other guys yet, you know, I'm sure we'll go out and cover them soon. But yeah,
I'm looking at that Goffstown game.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's 2 weeks from now.
You got to be at that one.
I believe, or maybe it's next week.
What about Goffstown? Why don't you talk about them? Because you were out there last weekend.
That team is good.
Yeah.
I mean, they are good, and
they lived up to the hype. You know, I was wondering if we overhyped them, and apparently not.
I know I'm a little bit biased because I live in Goffstown now and have been for about 10 years. So we've been hearing about this team. We knew they had a ton coming back. Casey Gervais is a man-child at the quarterback position. I mean, he's big, 6'4", solid, great runner. He can throw it. He's got weapons. Connor Burke. Did you watch the video highlights?
Yeah, oh yeah, of course I did.
How fast is that kid?
Yeah, he flies. He's a wrestler, too. He's just like a tough kid.
He is just low to the ground. His lower body is just very, very strong.
He's a wrestler,
and he flies. It looked like John Kesty, who produced that video, was speeding up those highlights. But that was legit speed from Connor Burke.
Yeah, he outran Leo Sade a couple of times there. That's a pretty fast kid as well. And I'm surprised their defense is that good. I knew they could score.
That's what I was going to mention. I mean, they got this kid Melanson, who was just a beast in the middle. The kid that we interviewed in the postgame, Joey Poisson, who was a sophomore. That kid is a hitter.
Yeah.
He's a ball hawk. They got pressure. I think they sacked Jacob Lewis from Concord 7 times last week.
Yeah.
They shut down that Concord Crimson Tide offense. And then Concord, I think that tells you how good Goffstown is, because Concord goes out and beats BG last night,
right.
17-14. BG put 54 on Manchester Central in their opener. Everybody's raving about BG. Bishop Girton's back. And you, the only one who picked Concord to win on our staff picks.
Eric Brown.
I was shocked, to be honest with you, after how I see Concord get manhandled last week, and then to see BG manhandle Central, and then Concord beats Bishop Girton last night. I was surprised.
Give that team a lot of credit. First, the character of those kids, and you know, Leo Sade was on Twitter, you know, saying that's why we like following these kids too. You know, we like to see what they say, and sometimes we don't like to see what they say. But you know, he was saying, hey, you know, great win. Like, we're gonna build off this. A win like that for Concord, they now can officially put that Goffstown game away and just say, forget that ever. It's like Patriots always seem to have that early season game in Miami where they're just awful and it's hot and they play terrible and they're able to kind of put it behind them. Same kind of thing with Concord. They can now build on that, and that's a brutal division. Concord, I mean, it's not now. They're just 2 teams from every conference, but they got to play Bedford, and you know they already played Goffstown. That's a tough division to get out of.
Yeah, the 2 Manchester schools in there as well.
Yeah, Central. Remember.
We mentioned Central and Memorial play each other this afternoon at Memorial at 2 o'clock. Just quickly around Division 2, we talked about that Monadnock-Laconia game, 27-7. Monadnock, a tough luck loser last week, fumbled it away, basically at the goal line against Souhegan in the final minute. Souhegan holds on for a 1-point win. Monadnock behind River Fish. They swim away with a 27-7 victory against Laconia. Laconia is now 0-2.
Yeah. Chances
are they're not going to make the playoffs because they are in a brutal conference.
13 points in 2 games for Laconia, and they got playmakers over there. So yeah, they need to kind of figure that thing out. I'm sure they'll work towards it. But boy, you know, you're right. You get an 0-3 hole in that conference, and it may be too late.
Look at Lebanon. I mean, we had Chris Childs on last week.
Score of the night.
We thought, hey, that's an impressive win on the road at Laconia in week 1. Well, how about just basically thumping Plymouth 32-13 behind a 300-yard rushing effort by Ryan Milligan?
Well, the guy who was telling me, the coach who was telling, you know, as I talked, that's why you talk to these guys, because they know. And it was actually Chris Sanborn from Plymouth who was like, Lebanon is good. Like, this was a month ago, and he said those guys are going to be real good over there. He was real high on them, and then they go out and they beat Plymouth. And I'll tell you, like, I talked to Coach Sanborn for a while this week. He was feeling good about his team too. So very impressive home opener there. Lebanon, I think they put new stands in over there or something like that. They made some additions. That's a fun place to go up to a game. They always treat us real good up in Lebanon. They take good care of us. So we'll have to get out there. But yeah, 32-13. Milliken is a beast, and I mean the Perkins kid is real tough for them too. We talked about him last week. They now own a tiebreaker over Plymouth and Laconia in that conference.
They're
so
putting themselves in pretty
in
good
a
position.
very good position.
We mentioned the big D2 game tonight, Kennett at Kearsarge, Riley Antel.
We'll have highlights of that too. Tom Pollard, we want to thank him. Will's dad is going to
He's going to send highlights of every single game.
Every game,
correct.
which is great, yeah.
And I don't know, I was looking at the YouTube views on these videos on nhsportspage.com, and that Kennett Merrimack Valley game from last week when Kennett won 54-24. People not looking at the video of that Kennett team with Will Pollard. That kid's a player. You mentioned it. He may be the best quarterback in the state.
Yeah.
All the state, not just this division.
He and Hedberg, I think. I think they're.
I think Will Pollard brings more of an explosive running game.
Yeah.
In addition to the passing game, I mean Hedberg can run it, but I don't think Coach Kumba wants Hedberg running a whole lot.
Right.
I think Coach, who's the? Sorry, I'm spacing.
Kennett.
Yes.
Von Beckwith.
Von Beckwith. I think he wants Will Pollard to run.
Yeah, Will Pollard's a big kid. He's bigger than half the linebackers he's playing against. But yeah, he absolutely is one of the. I think he's a kid who plays at the next level in college, and Hedberg as well. So I mean, it reminds you a little McGinnis, doesn't he? Will Pollard, a little bit of Brendan McGinnis.
Oh, I thought you said meant Willie McGinnis. I'm like, no, he doesn't remind me at all of Willie McGinnis.
You got Patriot in your head, so yeah.
No, I agree. I think he's probably. I don't know if I say this. I don't want to offend people by saying that he's a better thrower, but I think he's a little bit better throwing the football than Brendan McGinnis.
Yeah, no, I think
so.
He's tough. I'll tell you, he fired one in there last week. Those highlights great. And the thing about the highlights that you'll get from Kennett, Tom Pollard really edits them well. They're only like 4 minutes long. You know what I mean? So it doesn't take a long time. But we'll do a better job of pumping those up. But I think people probably saw the score. I worry about the numbers we'll get for Pinkerton and Portsmouth because it was funny. Quick story. We're going to talk about Shushgate, by the way, later on. I'm getting wound up for that. But last night, the press guys from Portsmouth, sort of like my adopted hometown, like Goffstown is to you.
Mike Z?
I said, no, Mike Z wasn't there. He was at a game in Maine. I said to the guy in the booth, I said, hey, can you give us a little love, nhsportspage.com? He's like, yeah, absolutely. And he was joking with me. I think the guy owns a real estate company. He's like, can I get on your website? Can you? I'm like, hey,
sponsorships are
they're available for every game. So I said to him, I said, can we get a little love? And then when Pinkerton scored 3 straight touchdowns, he looked at me and goes, no, we're not. We're not getting it. They're all Pinkerton. He goes, everyone from Derry will be watching. I'm like, what? So I couldn't even get a little love there.
Back here on the New Hampshire High School Football Show, Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley at our new home inside the Merchants Auto Studios at ESPN New Hampshire in Nashua, right the studio on Main Street. We also have the signals for you, 900 and 1250. And of course, anywhere you are, whether you're in Timbuktu or whether you're in Tilton, New Hampshire, you can listen to us on the ESPN radio app. Just search the live radio and hit ESPN New Hampshire, the TuneIn radio app. You can just go to nhsportspage.com and click on the New Hampshire High School Football Show link, and boom, there you got us. We also videotape the show, so you can watch it on demand on your schedule on nhsportspage.com. Just check out the video cast. John Kesty is in here filming this thing. Joining us on the phone line right now. I guess he's not on the phone line right now.
I think he may have dropped.
What happened there? We lost him. Jeff Moore, if
Live
you can call
radio.
us back, or maybe Brian, you can call him back, get the number, and just do what I told you there, and we'll try and get him back on. Because we definitely want to watch some BG, or talk some BG Concord last night.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that game ended, kind of what happened at the end of that game. But we can, what we can talk about is, that division that they're in, the conference they're in, the BG, Nashua South, Nashua North, Alvern. Alvern's 0-2.
Yeah.
North's 1-1. South is
0-2. No, they're 1-1.
Oh no, they're 1-1. They beat
won
Memorial.
last week, yeah.
So so BG's still tied with that one, but you still feel like BG's the best team in that conference?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they're the best team in that conference.
Good big win for North last night.
Yeah, I mean, tough luck loss for Alvern. I mean, they've lost 2 close games late.
7 seconds left. Josh Rodriguez.
And then
touchdown
the game in Keene last week, they lost in the final minutes as well. So, I think Alvern's a little bit better than 0-2 record would indicate. But Last year might have been the year for the Broncos.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to cash in on that. So they're 0-2. Look, it's young season. We just got this thing started. A lot of football left to be played. But that being said, the season's over before you know it.
No, I felt bad, or not bad, but you're sitting there with Laconia going 0-2. If they go 0-3, yeah, you can fall into it.
It is hour number 2 of the New Hampshire High School football show, each and every Saturday morning, live on the radio from the Merchants Auto Studio on ESPN New Hampshire. Also filming live on nhsportspage.com, although I've been told that the current technical term is not filming, because we're not actually filming it. Are we videotaping the show, John Cassidy?
Video
we're not
recording.
even videotaping
Video recording.
Video recording the show.
It's like when people say album sales. No albums.
Yeah, I
It's
understand.
all right. I know what you mean,
Isn't it an
Pete.
accepted
Don't
term?
let them beat you down.
The bottom
Pete.
line is you can listen to the radio live. You can watch the video of the show. It is a video, right? We are posting a video of this show that you can watch on nhsportspage.com on your schedule, on demand, so to speak. We'll give you all the scores from all 16 games around the state of New Hampshire. We have a special guest. If you're watching the video, you can see a new face has appeared in the camera, and it's Mike Lockman, the head coach of the Souhegan Sabres. We'll get to him in just a bit. His team on a bye in week 2. Great time for a bye, right? Week 2 of the season. But here's the scores from last night with Dave Haley.
Bedford, starting Division I, Bedford 69-27. Bedford's averaging roughly 135 points per game with Connor Roberts.
Is this basketball season?
They didn't score that much last season in basketball. 69-27 over South. Bedford's 2-0. As we talked, they're going to play BG next week. Timberlane, we thought they were good. They are good. 28-7 win over Londonderry. Jake Post, a sophomore, with 3 touchdowns. Game I was at last night, Pinkerton 54-14. This game was a little closer than the score indicates. At 40 points, it really would have to be. But Brett Titilio with 3 touchdowns. He had 1 75-yard touchdown run call back. He had a huge night. James Tully with a big interception at the end of the half. Pinkerton's 2-0. Pinkerton's good. Portsmouth 0-2. But a young team. I think Portsmouth's still going to be in this mix throughout the season. Salem 43-0 over Dover. Nick Chomsky with a big game. He opening kickoff for a touchdown. So Salem, Pinkerton next Saturday. That's going to be probably the game of the weekend, along with Souhegan, Milford. Those are the 2 biggest games next week. Merrimack loses to Winnicott 44-19. Brian Offant with 4 touchdown passes for the Warriors. Both teams now 1-1. Game we talked about at length with Coach Moore. Concord 17-14 to come back with a touchdown with a minute and 20 left in that game. Jake Lewis with a big game hit Leo Sade for the game-winning touchdown. Concord bounces back very nicely, 17-14 win. That's a good win over BG. Exeter 35-6 over the Spalding Fighting McIsaacs. Exeter is 2-0. Nashua North, Dante Lorende, congratulations, gets his first W. Josh Rodriguez, 3-yard touchdown reception, 7 seconds left. They beat Alvern. Sean Sandell has dug a hole in the woods and is sitting in it quietly, thinking about his Alvern Broncos 0-2. Merrimack Valley 43-6 over West. I think it's going to be a long year at West. Evan Martin with 4 touchdown passes there. Four touchdowns there. Monadnock 27-7. Monadnock might be pretty good. 27-7 over Laconia. Laconia 13 points in 2 games. They're 0-2. Linwood Patno's team with a good W there. The game of the night, I thought the score of the night, 11-32. Plymouth 13. Ryan Milliken 306 yards. I don't follow sports. Casual observer. Is that good?
That is pretty good.
That sounds good. 3 touchdowns for Lebanon's leading rusher. 32-13. They're 2-0, and they now hold the tiebreaker over Laconia and Plymouth in that very, very good conference. Milford. They didn't look ahead to Souhegan. They won a big one over Hollis Brookline, 43-12. Bryce Walker, 3 touchdowns. Keith Jones feels very good about his football team. They're 2-0. Hollis Brookline falls to 0-2. Wyndham in the game that Pete Cherry's at, and the great John Kessie, those highlights are on nhsportspage.com. Wyndham with a 21-7 win over Trinity. Touchdowns by Shane LaFawn, Matt Shea, and Victor Pizzotti, who is kind of like the guy I think who a lot of people are going to recognize, one of the best defensive players in the state, at least by the end of the year. So Wyndham is still here. They're 2-0. Hanover gets a win in their first game, 34-14 over Kingswood. First win for Sam Cavallaro, who's their new coach. In Division III, Interlakes Moltenboro, who is going to be real good. The Brothers, they led 33-0 at halftime over Somersworth, and they win 33-12. Interlakes Moltenboro, that's a team I'd love to get out and see. In the final game, Bow and Guilford, I refuse to say the score. That's it for the score.
It was 41-0, the Bow Falcons over Dave Haley's Guilford Golden Eagles. That's all we'll say on
You know what? All the Bow kids were inviting me to that game. I think they knew what was going up. They wanted to stick it to me a little bit. I don't appreciate it. No, 41-0. Chris Robbins, 2 touchdown passes. I'll stop mine.
So what, were they reaching out to you on Twitter?
Oh, yeah. They were inviting me to the game and everything.
If you want to interact with the show, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Twitter is burning up. We got at Golden Dick Coach Robertson saying, love listening to the show every week. Great stuff. We appreciate it. A couple of hashtags for you. Today counts, grind38. Any clue what that hashtag is all about? Is that Kurt Schilling related, grind38? No?
I'm not sure. I'm just waiting to get to Shushgate. But we're going to wait a little bit longer. But Justin McIsaac and I are going to break into Shushgate. Wait till everyone hears this story.
I can't wait to hear that story. Jen Chick also saying, my morning drive show at NH Sports Page, at Pete Terrier, at ESPN New Hampshire. We love you, Jen. Her video highlights from Portsmouth and Pinkerton up on the show as well. You can also join us on the Lovering Mitsubishi text line. That number, 845-827-1250. I'll give it to you one more time. You want to text the show, give us a message. Our producer, Brian Roach, he can bring that thing up and tell us what you have to say. 845-827-1250. We'll bring on our guest right now, Mike Lockman from the Stowhegan Sabres. He's the head coach, and his team survived a scare at the end of the game last week against Monadnock. You won it by a score of 13-12. You're on a bye this week, and I like it because you're sitting in studio with us, and we appreciate you coming on, Coach.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
But how do you feel about the bye in week 2?
There's pluses and minuses to it. I think bottom line is you've been lifting since November. You've been doing 7-on-7 tournaments and summer conditioning. You want to play a game. I really would have liked to have had a 9-game regular season, but it didn't work out that way. So we make the best of it, and we work on a lot of little things. We take a little bit of extra time to watch some film to get some kids that may be banged up recovered a little bit. And certainly to do a little extra preparation for the game that's coming up.
You guys could have played a game, though, right? You could have scheduled an out-of-conference game, out-of-state game. I remember Stowhegan used to play Manchester Central, several years ago. Were you on the staff at that time?
I wasn't. No, that was the year before I came in.
Some schools are playing Vermont, Massachusetts, but was that a consideration?
We did. We actually talked to the athletic department. There were 2 or 3 teams. There's a website in Massachusetts where teams that are looking to schedule games post, and there were 2 or 3 teams that were looking for a game that week, and we talked about it a little bit, but I think the school and myself sort of decided mutually that it may not be the best time to do that, so we took the bye.
Walk me through the end of that Monadnock game. What happened at the end of this thing? Because this is one of these things, we weren't there, so I want to hear what happened blow by blow at the end of that one.
Wow. So, I'll try to make a really long and stressful story short for you, but
it has a happy ending for you.
But I've just learned to start smiling about it now because it was so close. And by the way, we've lost, since I came aboard in 2013, we've lost 2 or 3 of those type of games. So it was certainly nice to be on the other end of it for a change. But, it was a 0-0 halftime game. We came out, drove the ball 97 yards down the field sometime in the late third quarter. Scored a touchdown, kicked the extra point, go 7-0. They came right back, scored, missed the extra point. So that's made it a 7-6 game. Then they scored again. I'm trying to remember the sequence of events, but on that touchdown, they may have. I don't recall, but at one point they had scored again to go up 12-7. And they got an unsportsmanlike penalty for a celebration after the touchdown, and we had a choice: do we want to tack it on to the extra point conversion try, or did we want it on the kickoff return? We had terrible field position all night. I mean, we started 4 drives inside our own 10. Really, really bad field position. So we said, hey, let's take it on the kickoff. It was a risk because we knew they were going to go for 2. They missed the 2-point conversion. Kick to us after the penalty had been enforced.
So it paid off.
Zach Bossy up the middle for a touchdown on the kick return.
Your special teams unit, as we call Zach.
Yes, he does everything. He punts for us, he kicks for us, he returns punts. He's a great talent there. But he scores on a kick return right off the bat, bang. So we're feeling pretty good about ourselves at that point. I think it was 13-12 because we went for 2 and didn't get it. Monadnock marches down the field on us doing a very good job managing clock, opening their offense up. They started throwing the ball. They're a too tight, full house pound it team. They get down inside the 5 with about 45 seconds left, run it. It was a lot like the end of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They run the thing. Kid picks up 3 or 4 yards. He's Bailey Johns is the kid's name. Great back.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there saying, this is it. I mean, this is it.
Gotta make a play, yeah.
And the next play, they pulled the ball, faked it to the running back, pulled the ball. Quarterback keeper around the end, and Nick Truchon, one of our captains, steps up, punched the ball out from him, and we had a fumble recovery on the 1 yard line with about 30 seconds left. Tucker Iao jumped on the ball for us. So it took me about 3 days to even smile about it. but I'm over it now. We're on to Milford.
Now, last year I was at the game. It was at Souhegan actually, and the same thing happened. You guys were trying to score, and it was actually the last play of the game. I think Cam Kinney fumbled it or got stripped or whatever, went into the end zone. You guys were down, I think, 1 at the time. Had you recovered it in the end zone, you would have won. Milford recovered it, sealing the victory for them. I mean, that was like a do or die play too.
It was, and that was it was a brutal way to win week 1, and it was a brutal way to lose last year to Milford. So, yeah, I mean, certainly again, it felt good in retrospect, but it was stressful.
Is the rivalry with Milford still what it's been, what it used to be? Is it still really, really just intense?
I think it's better now. I think historically, I don't know what Souhegan's record is against Milford.
Dominated.
Yeah, and I wasn't part of that, so I can't take any credit for that whatsoever. But Milford has been very good against Souhegan the last 4 or 5 years. You go back to that first win in 2009 on that dark and stormy, foggy night.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good now. The kids get up for it. I think the coaching staffs both know each other really well, so we get excited for it. Absolutely.
That defense of yours has so many guys back from last year, and really sounded like when we were talking the strength, and I was looking at it, and not to get off topic, but you were talking about the Milford. If you win that game and you recover that fumble, Trinity makes the playoffs, you're closer to making it. It's just in that conference you're in, and we talk about this every week, but it is one play, and it's so close. And at the end of the year, I think you guys will be a playoff team, but if you are, it's that you'll look back at that first game and say, look at that. But talk about this defense. You've got a lot of kids back, a lot of playmakers.
Yeah, we're really fortunate that the guys on defense, have a ton of experience. A lot of those guys started as sophomores. Cam Kinney, Nick Truchon. We had to build that defense.
Yeah.
My first year when these guys that are seniors now are sophomores, around those guys that were sophomores. So we expect big things out of the defense this year. There's a lot of talent. We're not replacing many guys. I think we have 1 or 2 new starters, and there were guys that maybe weren't starters last year, but they rotated through. So we have a lot of experience, and they play fast. They have a lot of spirit, more spirit than I think that's confidence.
Yeah.
More spirit than I've seen in my previous 2 years. And I think they're going to have to carry us in some of these games, particularly this coming week.
Mike Lockman from Souhegan is our in-studio guest with us on the New Hampshire High School football show. We do it Saturday live on the radio between 9 and 11 on ESPN New Hampshire. Also, video of the show on nhsportspage.com. Coach Lockman, got to ask you about the Bellevue effect, because he was the coach there for a long time, won a lot of championships there. He actually works for ESPN New Hampshire as an analyst on our Friday Night Lights coverage. He was out there at Stello Stadium last night, saw 69 points put up by Bedford against my Nashville South Panthers. But is the specter of Mike Bellevue still over that program, because he really built that program and turned it into what it was and what it is?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer. I think that I have personally I have a really good relationship with Coach Bellevue. He talks to me, has talked to me before every season. He came by to visit a couple practices this year, and we always welcome him to come by. It was a tough act to follow, no question, and I that weighed on my decision as to whether I would even really want to take the job. Those are big shoes to fill. But I think at this point, I think this being my 3rd year, I think we've gotten better each year. Well, I guess this year remains to be seen, but we've improved the last couple years, and I think that we're starting to feel comfortable, very comfortable in terms of this is my program now, and I think the players understand the expectations that may be different and or the same that Coach Beliveau had. So I think that's always going to be there. Coach B was awesome and accomplished great things, but we're very focused on right now, now. So that's
This has to be a conference that you just have to go week by week. I mean, it sounds like coach speak, but I was going to ask you, what do you think of Lebanon beating Plymouth, or that the Wyndham was able to beat Trinity last night, but you got to be all I guess I'm setting you up for an easy answer.
Where were you last night? We had a game last night?
Yeah, we found out, I'm glad we did, we found out really late that the Hollis-Milford game was at night on Friday.
Yeah.
We were expecting it to be Saturday afternoon, so unfortunately we had planned on going over to Trinity to see that game against Wyndham, and we sort of hightailed it over to Hollis to watch Milford, obviously, because that's who we're focused on right now. But I came home last night, saw the Plymouth score, and I said, wow, there's some teams that are for real.
Do you like this new format with the playoffs? I mean, someone like yourself who could get in as the third team, you could win the conference, but I mean, I would think coaches would kind of like this. When you play in a tough conference like you do.
Yeah, I like it. I to be honest with you, as much as it didn't work in our favor last year, I liked it last year.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I thought it was a step in the right direction. As much as it may not favor you if you happen to be in a strong conference that year, hey, you know what you have to do going in. So I do like it. I think they've made an improvement this year with the changes.
Yeah.
Have you seen much of St. Thomas over the last couple of years? Because that's a team that's fun to watch.
I haven't. It's too bad because the way that we cross over, you only get to see, they don't mix the schedule up, so we're playing the same teams essentially we've been playing. Certainly saw them in the championship game last year against Wyndham, and we know a lot about how good Wyndham is. It was really an eye-opener to see them play at UNH last year. And I saw the score against Sanborn last weekend, and
put up 60.
Yeah, and Sanborn's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of young talent last year on the line. They had a good young running back. I can't recall his name. He put a 97-yard run on us in a game that we won that was closer than the score indicated. They've got to be for real. Yeah.
I spent 2 days ago, I stood there watching the U.S. Open and putting Sauhegan football cards into envelopes for people from all of the states. So I just want to, on the air, thank you. You guys are doing a fundraiser with us, neighborhood fundraising. The kids are able to kind of, instead of just, I think the reason you chose this, instead of just selling cards in the Amherst area, they're able to email friends and family all over the state. So if you've got an uncle in Keene, there's a Keene card with 25 deals on it. If you've got one on the Seacoast, same sort of thing. So I can spend next Saturday with the Sauhegan Sabres. We're going to go around into neighborhoods and selling cards. But I just want to publicly thank you. One of the teams doing fundraising with us. We're building this up, and it's been fun working with the kids. You got a good group of kids over there.
Yeah, thank you. It's worked out great, and it is a good group. I've coached at a few different schools for the last 20 years, and kids are kids. The players are players, but I do enjoy coaching the guys at Sauhegan. There's a lot of passion with this year's seniors, and they're really into it, and that makes it a lot of fun. It's not just a pastime for the guys, but they're really football guys, and that's what we've got this year, so we're excited.
Yeah, the only question they asked me that I couldn't answer is when they get an Xbox. If they raise a certain amount of money, they're like, which Xbox?
Sounds like
I think it was Mancini. He's like, whoa, which Xbox is it?
Yeah, Mancini's a huge gamer from what I understand, so he would ask that.
Coach, I got to ask you about Turkey Bowl. Sauhegan played Merrimack for a number of years. I think that one's been quiet for the last few years. But do you have a game on the schedule this year? Are you interested in one?
It's an interesting question, especially given that it was Sauhegan Merrimack.
The Milk Jug, is that what it was?
Yeah, the Milk Jug. I played for Merrimack before the game was established. The first game was in 1997.
So you played for Coach Raycraft?
I did.
Joe Raycraft.
Yeah, I played for Joe Raycraft very proudly. And so that game was always a part of my coaching life, and when the transition happened for me into Sauhegan, it was also the transition where Dante Lorendi was going into Merrimack, and I think the administrations looked at that as sort of an inflection point for the game. The attendance and interest had been down in it a little bit, and they asked us what we felt, but I think really the administrations made the decision they were gonna put that to rest for a few years and maybe come back to it.
Had there ever been any talk about you guys just playing Milford on Thanksgiving Day? I mean, Nashua South and Nashua North play each other in the regular season, and then they play each other again. There was one year where they played each other in the playoffs, so they played each other 3 times in one year. I mean, there's enough in that rivalry where you could come back and do it a couple of months later.
You know, I can't say that it hasn't come up in conversation. Certainly nothing between Coach Jones and I don't think between the administrations, but I can tell you that kids grabbed us after the Milford loss and were like, Coach, could we call them up and schedule them for Thanksgiving?
Maybe in a parking lot.
Yeah, like, no, I don't think so, guys.
The game they got to do is Salem-Wyndham. You got to do Salem-Wyndham. I mean, how
I
fun would that
asked
have
Coach
been?
Raycraft about that.
I remember.
I talked to him on the phone yesterday or the day before, and he said that it's a possibility. It's nothing that they're focusing on real hard, but they're talking about.
It would have been, and I know this won't always be the instance, but for Salem last year, it would have been so great because it would have been huge. And then Salem doesn't end on that Londonderry game; they would have had one more, so it would have been nice. But we'll see if those things develop.
All right, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come back more with Coach Mike Lockman from the Souhegan Sabres. His team on a bye this week, but they need the extra preparation because they're playing their rivals on Friday night. Milford, the game is in Milford this year. We'll have it covered for you on nhsportspage.com, video highlights after the game. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we got Justin McIsaac. He's going to join us on the program with his weekly visit. Can't wait to hear the Shushgate conversation. Do we save that for Justin, or we do that next with Coach Lockman?
Coach Lockman's too nice to say anything on air about it, so I'll handle it for him.
All right.
I don't care what bridges I burn.
Thank you.
It is the High School Football Show.
You're welcome.
Live on the radio, ESPN New Hampshire, and on NHSportsPage.
For high school sports.
Final minutes of the program, New Hampshire High School Football Show, ESPN New Hampshire Radio, also nhsportspage.com. My name is Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley. We got Mike Lockman, the head coach of the Souhegan Sabres. His team on a bye this week. They won their first game last week, a 1-point win over Monadnock. I want to talk a little Union Leader, WMUR, ESPN New Hampshire Power Poll. I got a vote representing ESPN New Hampshire, as does Nick Anastas, outstanding play-by-play man for Friday Night Lights. He had some tremendous calls of that Bedford 69-27 victory over Nashua South. There were a lot of big plays in that game. We were trying to locate some of those play-by-play cuts to play them on the show, but we just couldn't find them. So we'll definitely utilize that going forward on the program. Dave Haley, you don't have a vote. Okay?
They like mention this every week.
I know.
I told you, McIsaac and I are doing our Muppet poll.
You deserve a vote, but I got to ask you, do you look at the power poll at least, or you just, it's dead to you, you don't really care?
I glance at it. I was surprised Plymouth wasn't in it, and then again, Plymouth lost this week.
I had Plymouth in there, I think, on my ballot.
I'll be honest with you, I kind of looked and snickered that Londonderry is in there because I knew this is a rebuilding year for Londonderry.
I didn't have them in.
Okay, yeah, but they're in there. And no, I think Lebanon should be in there. Tell you right now, Lebanon should be in there next week, and if Kennett wins, they should be in there.
I think they're going to be, yeah. And I had Kennett on my ballot, and Wyndham, and St. Thomas. I think there's only one Division II team in there, Coach Lockman, and it was St. Thomas, and they were tied for 8th. I think I had them ranked 6th. But as a coach, do you look at this thing? Yeah,
I mean, I think you'd be lying to say that you don't. I think it's really interesting. I mean, I think it's actually really good for New Hampshire football fans. You know, it adds a little bit of color to the week-to-week analysis and what happened. So I do think it's really cool. I think early in the season like this, I think it's difficult. I think because it's hard to tell who's for real, and the matchups can be interesting sometimes because you're not really sure who's up and who's down, and you're sort of going off of the strength of the programs the prior year. So I think in the beginning of the season, it's probably difficult for you guys to really be able to say, wow, Merrimack beat Portsmouth, for example. Well, is that Merrimack's
what does that
really
mean?
good, right? Or was it maybe Portsmouth a little down? How do you really know how to do that? But I do think it's interesting, and I think the kids like to look at it and get fired up about it one way or the other. I think the coaches and fans like it, so it's cool.
Anything that gives the kids more attention is great. Yeah, that's what we do. This, we love covering these kids. These kids deserve it. These coaches deserve it. So yeah, I think it's fun that way.
Yeah. I will say that the preseason poll, for me anyway, is very, very difficult, and I basically base it on last year. I base it on what I know teams have coming back, and that changes, and it changes like in an instant. injuries you don't know about, defections from the team, new kids moving into town, whatever. But in my initial ballot, my preseason ballot, I will reward teams for what they did last year. And I like to give the lower divisions some love. I'd rather put the number 1 team in D3 at the number 10 spot.
Bo last year.
I don't think that Bo could beat, say, Londonderry, who I don't even have in my poll. But I'm not going to put a 5-5 Londonderry team at number 10 at the end of the season when I could put a 10-0 Bow team in there. I'd rather give the smaller schools a little bit of love.
It's like when Murray State in basketball this year was like 27-2, and they made the top 25 at the end of the year. They deserve to be in there. Who are you going to put? Texas, who's 17-14.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a toss-up game. Whoever plays. But yeah, I agree. And Bowl last year was dominant, especially when a team in Division. I think Newport has a chance to dominate that division. And if they do, and by the way, I was looking at the schedule. Not to get off topic, but the 26th of September, Newport at Interlinks. That'd be a heck of a game on the turf.
That day, I think that's St. Thomas at Plymouth. I think that day is also...
Which is where we're going.
There's another awesome game. I think that's the Winnicott-Exeter game that day. That's the rivalry weekend. So, and I think the night before is Pinkerton-Londonderry, I believe, on the 25th. So that's going to be a tough weekend to figure out. How many video cameras do we have at our disposal?
We only got 2. Sometimes we only got 1.
Yeah, so,
I think McIsaac's going to go up to Plymouth. We may have him.
And I want to go to see that game as well.
Yeah.
Although some of the luster is off of that game after Plymouth got beat up pretty good.
Where's it taking
Lebanon.
place?
It's in Plymouth.
No. Say it.
In the land of Lenahan.
I know you like that.
The land of Lenahan. All right, guys, we're just about out of time, but I do want to mention something that it's a cause that's near and dear to our heart here at NH Sports Page and at ESPN New Hampshire. Our videographer, John Kesty, had a daughter who passed away. There was a problem with an addiction, and she passed away a couple of years ago. And John is involved with this great organization called Hope for New Hampshire Recovery. They're doing a fundraiser, a spaghetti dinner, next Saturday. That's the 19th at 6 p.m. Where is it, John?
Sweeney Post on Maple Street.
Sweeney Post in Manchester. So if you're looking to support a great cause, there's big problems with heroin right here in New Hampshire. You hear about it all the time. So please support that. Sweeney Post, next Saturday night, 6 o'clock. Hope for New Hampshire Recovery. You can just Google it and check out more information on that. I want to thank Mike Lockman from Sauhegan for joining us. We also want to thank Jeff Moore, the Bishop Girton coach, for joining us. For Dave Haley, John Kesty, our producer Brian Roach doing a great job. Listen to him on the Sports Blast coming up next from the Hampton Seafood Festival. My name's Pete Terrier. Enjoy the rest of your football weekend.